Good morning, Kodavu Island, which is it's an island in Fiji because this time zone is just really awful trying to find places where it is 8 a.m. Because Eastern Russia, it has places that are very hard to pronounce. But anyway, yes. We are back with Prodigy Season 1, Episode 16, Preludes. A day late because I was very sick yesterday. As you can hear, Alex is sick today. Yes, I had nausea. I was very butthurt about it, which is to say that my butt was very sore and my inner knees, so it was very uncomfortable to sit. But most importantly, I was right on the cusp of becoming too dehydrated to take in fluids, which is very bad if you can't figure that already. It happened to me once as a kid. It's how I learned to stay hydrated. But yes, sitting in front of a mic and talking would have definitely pushed me over that line. I'm good now.
Yeah, you didn't lose your voice. How come I had to lose my voice?
There's no way they can hear you, Alex, who has lost their voice. Aniket, yes, you're from India. It's late night. That is amazing. I did not expect
Is this
a
your
global...
late night show?
Apparently, I did not expect to reach very far outside of the United States or even just the West Coast. But I guess with noon, I don't know... what time is it over in India? I kind of know the U.S. West Coast, East Coast, and Europe. And so...
Aniket's the horse says it's late night, so I assume
It is late night. It's gotta
9,
be.
10, 11.
I think is it 6? It's not 16 hours, but it's pretty late. Preludes. I really enjoyed that episode. That one was good. I've just seen my gain is a bit high. Hang on, let me. I don't know if you can hear this.
Might be able to hear me.
There we go. I very much doubt it. It's 1:30 a.m. tomorrow in India. Wow, you must really have wanted to see this. Yeah.
What the fuck?
It is. It's 1:30 a.m. Yes, that was a great episode. I think because you didn't need it. Like, the kids were from Telslamore. You didn't really need more than that. Like, you know, they just somehow gotten into the slave trade. They were there. They're now come together. You didn't need this episode, but it was a great piece of character building, world building as well. And it was just like, it was nice seeing everyone's stories and where they came from, how they got there. The bit about the, I should really learn their species, like the diviner's species plan, was great because I think after my stream last week, I'd already thought of another way that just completely ruined Prodigy with giving the enemy time travel. But this was great because, like, I think I said before, why don't they just go back to, like, TNG, like, send them through Starfleet, they're an admiral by the time of now, or, like, however far back you have to do that, and then you just, like, don't do the Prodigy mission, or they put themselves in charge of the Prodigy mission. They can't do that, because it wasn't directed, their time travel. They had no control of where they ended up, which, I think fixes any problems that might come up with the time travel. Like, you might argue it's, contrived, but, like, I don't know, it's random. Like, I don't think they've ended anywhere particularly strategically valuable. And they had to end up somewhere, of course. But, God, I thought... Sorry, there are probably still gonna be minor coughing fits throughout. Yeah, I thought there was something else I was gonna say. Let me just do a quick scan, because we will go through the scene by scene. I've got loads of stuff to talk about going through this. Oh, yes. So, I feel like we're going to need a chart by the end of Prodigy. But the plan as I understand it now, and this first sentence is the bit I'm the least sure of, is we'll call like this time in Prodigy, like a year after Lower Decks. Let me just switch to the credits. We'll call this now. So in the future is times after what we're calling now, because technically this whole thing's in the future, but that's what we're gonna use to describe this. So sometime in the future, Starfleet comes and visits Diviner Planet. I should really learn these names. And that's not now Starfleet. That's a future Starfleet. It's why they're in the Delta Quadrant, why they're that far. They visit, I keep wanting to say Taos Namor, but Diviner Planet. That triggers, unrest. That triggers everything that the Vindicator described. Unrest, the civil wars, yada yada. Now, well, a bit before now, but basically now, Chakotay is in charge of the Protostar mission, and he winds up hitting some sort of temporal anomaly that sends the Protostar into the future to the Diviner's planet, where they take over his ship. So now Chakotay is in the future. And in the future, Chakotay sent the Protostar back in time to roughly now, a bit before now, to Taos Lamor. Which, by the way, as I read this story, Chakotay is now trapped in the future. Like, presumably the quite far future. Like, Chakotay's kind of dead now. He's trapped there. That's how I read that. And then they send, 100 ships, the Diviner's planet, in the future. They send them to the same temporal anomaly, and only the Diviner and Vindicator go back in time to 20 years before now, and 3 years before now. So I guess the Protostar was sent, decades before now as well. That's the story as I read it, which makes a lot more things work. The time travel was the only thing that kind of broke the show, but a lot of other, many things work neater having this whole story. And I do have to give him credit that, the things beforehand that were just kind of weird, they still didn't break the story, but it's kind of satisfying to have it go oh yes, this now makes more sense. Now that we're having it told to us, now that we're knowing the full story, this makes more sense, and a lot of things make more sense. So I think with that, I'll go into the scene by scene, because things will jog my memory. I know, I've got a bunch to talk about here. We'll go through. Let me take a drink real quick. Alright. We'll go through. I don't think I have anything with this initial Janeway scene. I was actually going to say who put out this wanted thing, but we found that out at the end. The Diviner did it. But good luck finding Murph. He doesn't look like this anymore. I also like how these appear to be pictures, but they're all, super angry, except Murph. Actually, that is amazing. They're all angry, but, whoever he hired to draw Murph was like, nah, Murph is happy. Alright. Then we get into basically the meat of the episode. Yeah, I forgot that Rock Talk, how Rock Talk sounded before the Universal Translator. I kind of found it weird that they were putting on some sort of super aggressive monster voice. But then, of course, I was like, actually, that's just the language of the Bakure or something like that. And, of course, I liked this. I liked that Rock Talk wasn't some sort of, gladiator. They were a performer. They had a good relation with this hero guy. Look, they're enjoying it. It's a show to them. I really like that story. Because it would have been, I think, super out of character for Rock Talk to do some sort of, gladiatorial death match thing. But this was a lovely story. And, yeah, the monster, I might say it's a bit weird for, intergalactic, government, I don't know, thing, like species, to be like, this alien is the monster. But I was thinking, I can't think of another species like Rocktalk. They're all generally pretty humanoid. There's no big, super strong, hulking rock beasts in the galaxy, as far as I can remember. Uh, so yeah, this species I believe is Alpha Quadrant in Beta canon, or rather maybe Beta, because of course they're whatever. But it's not Delta Quadrant. Like it's not someone who's just hanging around this arena place. Which I mean, Alpha Quadrant can do whatever it wants with these Beta canon races, but Alpha canon can do whatever it wants. But that does raise the question if Rocktalk species is an Alpha Beta Quadrant, unless they're right up against the Delta Quadrant, how she got here. But I don't think I have too much to say about Rocktalk, other than this is clearly a Boolean, and, Prodigy's insistence on making the galaxy feel super small. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say on that. We'll go now to Zeros, where kind of a lot of the references started, that were kind of nice, just really making it fit in the Star Trek world in general. But I do want to comment here, if we remember the old TOS explanation for the Medusans, is that they're so ugly they drive people insane, which is...
It was so ugly that everybody died. The end.
Incredibly problematic and racist and like an awful description. But, which, to the credit of the episode, I think it did kind of work again, like, the episode went against that idea. I was like, hey, this idea is bad and hurtful and problematic. But it's, Starfleet people still held it. These are the Medusans. These, like, beautiful nebula creatures who are apparently so ugly no one can look at them. But I found it interesting that apparently animal life can look at the Medusans and not go insane. Which is interesting. Maybe, that cricket did go insane. We just don't know it. But I found that kind of odd. It kind of is like, well, what causes the people to go insane, What is it about looking at a Medusan that affects sentient life, but not sentient life? Or is it the other way around? I can never remember. But yeah, I liked at the end of this, the Kazon are wearing, the TOS glasses things that make it okay to look at a Medusan. Odd that they have literally those exact goggles and that they would know them, but maybe they took it from like Voyager or the Equinox or, some other Federation database. And of course in the background, I think I own one of those, a Medusan ship. Classic, well, not actually, I don't think it's classic. I think it's remastered TOS style. I think the classic Medusan ship was like just Harry Mudd ship again or something. But no, that was a nice touch. Maybe you could question then when this takes place, but it has to have been within like the past 20 years because they took Zero straight to the Diviner. But yeah, that was... nice little story. I mean, makes sense. This is how Medusan got to the Delta Quadrant. Who knows how long they were traveling for, but I've said, I think when the casting announcements came out, the Medusans were like super expert navigators that could travel at incredibly fast warp velocities. So, you could have a Medusan in Andromeda, and I wouldn't look at it too hard. And then I love the interjection of, yes, this Diviner story, which I already talked a lot about. I will say that this is kind of the story I'd always want to tell in Star Trek. Like, I'm not a writer. It would be, like, kind of bad if I actually wrote it. But, the first contact from the perspective of, I'm trying to not use the word primitive. the less developed species, the one that is on the planet that the aliens, the Federation, has come to. And I've talked about that before in, I think, some reviews. Strange New Worlds, I think. But specifically, this, in human culture, and there's often the story of, like, oh, they come and they promise everything. The aliens or the European colonists, they'll come and they'll be like, we'll give you technology and advances and riches, and like we just want to be friends and learn from each other. And then it goes horribly wrong. There'll be disease, or it's all a big deception, or you'll become so dependent on the superior power that you might as well be their slaves. And I've been interested in that story, but the Federation says that, and they actually mean it, and they'll follow through with it. Like, they just want to be friends with everyone, and they will give out non-military technology, but, I mean, even then, that's like a red flag. Like, we'll give you everything except the means to defend yourselves or bring you on, like, the same level as us. Like, how would that affect a society that's like, are they actually, like, really wanting to help us? Or is this, like, some big deception? And then from the Federation, it's like, how do we convince these people we're actually too good to be true, but we are true? Etiquette, again, these backstories should be stated on either the 6th or 10th episode, but anyhow, all revealed in episode 16, strange but effective. I think, this might not be the sole reason, but when, I feel like episode 15 had some big revelation about the time travel, or, something like that, because I remember I was talking about, hey, now Prodigy is broken. You had to have the diviner revelation this episode, because I already spent a week, thinking the Prodigy plot makes absolutely no sense because our enemies have time travel. And, you could put yourself in so many better positions, even getting yourself on this mission. You could put yourself in so many better positions. You needed to step in immediately after that revelation and say, actually, they can't. They can't time travel to any point. They shotgunned themselves into the past and randomly sprinkled themselves throughout the galaxy, and there were only 2 that actually made it. That could be why the other ones, they lumped kind of everyone's backstory in here. But as I said before at the start, I don't think you needed this. Like, I don't think anyone would really complained. I never really wondered so much, like, how did all these people get to Tals Lamore? Like, you don't need that, but it does wonders for world building and character building. So I don't know if it's specifically that they wanted to lump, this very short explanation of what happened to the Diviner's planet in with everyone else's backstory, but that is why the Diviner one is here right now, is because it had to be here now. Imagine if it was episode 20. Like, Prodigy his plot would have been broken for like 10 episodes, well, 5 episodes, and then at the end you'd be like, oh, well, I guess it did make sense, but I spent, 5 episodes thinking it didn't. Well, yeah, my story, I'd point out, my first contact story would have a happier ending than this. But that's like the Star Trek movie, or maybe even just a series that is entirely set on, like, some planet that's just discovered warp. Because I want the story to breathe. I want it to have room to, like, develop, and I don't want it to be rushed. That would be my Star Trek series. It doesn't even have to be Star Trek, because, like, you would not focus on the Federation at all. Like, if the Federation has much focus as Janeway does in Prodigy, it's too much. Like, you should only ever see the Federation from the perspective of our alien race, because it'd just be so interesting, I think. All right, going forward. Oh, so actually, this isn't Dreadnought, like I was saying before. Dreadnought is like a model, not a person. So, yeah, I mean, you could still say that he had an unsatisfying ending, that this doesn't really change it, just having a second Dreadnought. But it does open the possibility to, like, maybe they could build more, that that could really raise the stakes in, like, a sensible way, in a way that's logical, that keeps you engaged. But, yeah, that's something that just occurred to me right now. Going through. I did wonder, why do they have these weapons? I'm not gonna get the frame, but they have the weapons that on the Protostar. That wasn't like custom developed or anything for the Protostar. That was just, they said it was like the last of their whatever. I don't remember what they called it. I wonder what they were using those for before. Going through. Oh, and another key bit about the Diviner's backstory is they said the anomaly, the thing that let him go back in time, was collapsing. So these 2 ships they sent are the only chance they will ever get. They can't send more. If the Diviner and the Vindicator fail, they can't send more ships. This is it. I mean, this is like an incredibly, so far, an incredibly well-written and tight time travel story. That because of the limitations they've set on the time travel, I don't think you'll really be able to poke holes in it, which is interesting because I still think Time Amok is the worst time travel story ever written. It doesn't make sense on any level, internally or externally. It doesn't work. And I know I'm in a very small minority, but you're all wrong. Just accept it. Yeah, going forward. I wouldn't be surprised, going back to what Anakin said, if they knew they wanted to tell the Diviners, the story of the Diviners race in that first contact in this episode. They didn't have enough to fill the 23 minutes. And so the idea of throwing in the other characters' backstories, it just kind of spurred on naturally to, give the episode a common theme, hold it together, even to where, like, Janeway is wondering who these people are, as we learn who they are. I would not be surprised at all if that is how the structure of this episode happened. Going forward a bit more. Oh no, we'll go into Jenkums first. I really like Jenkums in that I love the fact that Jenkum refers to himself in the third person because he spent so much time with this robot to where if he didn't say Jenkum Pog, it would, like, tell him to please state his name and query. And so it's like habitual, basically. That is why he says Jenkum Pog. I like that. I think that's a fun bit of character work. Yes, I think it's fun. As someone who didn't really like that he said Jenkum Pog before, I like it more now. Does make me wonder why he didn't know that Pog was, like, what you call the runt of a litter. If he is actually from, like, pre-Federation Teller Prime. But maybe, like, it wasn't when he was born, and there was, like, I don't know, some famous Tellarite named Pog. Kind of like Napoleon. Napoleon complex, kind of like that thing, where there was a Pog who happened to be short, even though Napoleon wasn't, and the Tellarites being rude as they are. Or maybe he was, like, a great figure, like Robert Pog helped found the Federation, but he was really short, and his Tellarites, they use, like, rudeness as a form of politeness. They honored Robert Pog by, like, forever tying his name with, like, runt of the litter nobodies. I love that. That is headcanon now. Prodigy, make it happen. Yeah, Jenkum Pog's backstory was funny and sad at the end with royalty. Yeah, I want to say, I like as well. A lot of people theorize. I think even I did that perhaps Jenkin Pog was part of some sort of like either sleeper ship or what's the word, generational ship that was sent out like ages ago, and that's why it got to the Delta Quadrant. And it was, I like that. It's a shame there are so many other species that can just do that, including, I don't think I will ever forgive getting Okana to the Delta Quadrant in a pinch warp 4 in a year. I think that's an unforgivable sin, but hey, at least we kind of fixed the Jenkum story. But yeah, I didn't get the impression he really learned engineering. I mean, he must have, but not like super formally. It's not like it didn't do anything. I want to say, little thing, why was the toilet clogged? If Jenkum Pog is the only person on the ship? I mean, he was presumably using the toilet, but how come it got clogged when he wasn't in the toilet? Yes, that was just a little thing that was like, huh, maybe his ship is just that broken. But no, I really like at the end, where it was like a funny, comedy story. But the bit where he's just like, what if there were only 29? It shows him as being very selfless, being self-sacrificing. He went through all this work to fix the ship, which I mean is kind of it's kind of being selfless, but at the same time he benefits from the ship working. But this was very selfless and again just a great character moment, a great character beat, and I don't know if we've seen it too much from Jenkum Pog before, or maybe not as obviously, but this was very much like I've just been watching Peter Capaldi's Doctor Who, 6. Oh, it's like the without witness, without reward, no one will ever know, but he's doing it to save the 29 other crew members. He's just gonna get a shuttle and go away to God knows what. But yeah, it was just a really well done episode that did amazing work for the world building, the character development, and making Prodigy feel connected with the greater world. Like there was the bully and that was so blink and you'll miss it. I missed it until doing this frame by frame thing. But you had the Medusan glasses, you had the Medusan ship, you had, I don't know, maybe even these references to pre-Tellarite Federation. I feel like there's a big one I'm missing from something. Even the things that are always kind of there, like Chakotay, just going on missions post-Voyager. Yeah, I mean, you have Janeway and Romulans now. Prodigy is very firmly a Star Trek. I said before, when the first art of the characters and stuff came out, it looked generic. It looked like it could have been any sci-fi with the exception of, Janeway standing there. But it didn't look Star Trek because it wasn't Star Trek yet, and it wouldn't be Star Trek until Prodigy actually started coming out. And now it's very firmly cemented itself as a Star Trek, and it feels like one. I mean, it's not disconnected in any way. It's part of this universe. Anakin, again, character diversity, plot, and character arc development are things Star Trek Prodigy is enjoyable. Yes. I don't know if this episode in particular did anything for character diversity. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define diversity. But I've said before, Prodigy has done great with diversity. The spacesuits that'll fit any body type. Heck, the fact that there are so many body types in the main cast. I think Gwen and Dal are the only two people who have the same body type. Yes, Gwen and Dal are the only two people with the same body type in what would probably be considered like a standard default humanoid body type. Most characters, ignoring the fact that these people are aliens, most characters would look like this in a show. Prodigy. Sorry. One moment. Yes, Prodigy's been great with diversity. Plot, yep. I've said before, it could be better, which is true of anything that is not perfect, but it is definitely very well done. It's great. It's my only complaint is that as an adult, I don't usually walk away feeling I've like learned something or have some new insight. It's more, yes, you did that, great lesson for the kids. Like, this was a very well executed thing. I'll say the plot, like the story itself, is getting much more interesting, and I'm more engaged in the story these past 2 episodes. As one ends, I'm more interested in what the second one has to come. This whole stream has been talking about the character development, character arc. Prodigy is definitely top 2 of the modern Star Treks. It really depends on how good was the last Lower Decks episode, on if it's the best or not. It really does. A question that I kind of thought about in this episode is that can Zero read Murph's mind? Because Murph, he appears, well, is he like a sentient, is he like a human or like an animal? I cannot even remember the difference between sentient and sentient. But, how did Murph end up there? And could Zero just tell? Like, I'd assume he can't read Murph's mind, because otherwise a lot of Murph-related plots would kind of not have happened. But I do wonder if we'll ever get a point where Murph talks. Like, I think it'd be the end of the series, because I don't know if D. Bradley Baker has ever done a speaking role, really, or even if he's done one recently, because I remember when I looked him up, he'd done, like, Momo, Lion, Centibeetle, Perry the Platypus, like, all non-speaking characters that make weird noises. He's cemented a career in that, and he's good at it, but I wonder if he'd ever get to the point. Like, I can see Murph getting more and more humanoid, more and more developed, but yeah, we'll just have to see. I also found it kind of interesting when they asked Janeway what real Janeway was like. The first thing she brought up was her dog Molly. I definitely didn't have to Google Star Trek Molly and then get a bunch of results about Molly O'Brien and then Google Star Trek Janeway dogs. But it was kind of interesting. And I did get the feeling as this was ending, it's because I think that was like the last line of the episode, pretty much. Oh, not quite. Of like, oh, now go watch all of Voyager. It's like classic Doctor Who did one where they didn't do many repeats, but there was like some big Dalek episode coming up right after they picked up a new companion, and the Doctor was telling this new companion about like all the cool things out in the universe, but also dangerous things, and he brings up like, the Daleks, and the new companion's like, oh, what are the Daleks? And he's like, oh, I'll show you, and it like pans over to his little screen that I think starts showing some Dalek things, or like basically after that they do a rerun of a Dalek story to, like, get the audience familiar with Daleks who might not have seen them before. As if, in 1960s Britain. But I got those vibes where, like, the episode kind of continued to something in real life. Like, now go watch Voyager. But yeah, it's a fun little bit. As that line was going up, you can see the Voyager reference, and I was like, which one's it gonna be? How quickly can I identify it? And Jane was like, have I ever told you about Molly? And along with the characters, at the same time I went, who's Molly? Like, what? You know what would have been fun, actually, as I take a drink, is if we got Naomi on Janeway's ship. Like, I don't know if there's room in the cast for it, because the Vindicator took up that slot where I think Molly would have gone. But that would have been fun. I don't know, if they have to replace the Vindicator, bring Molly on. And yeah, going through, this is interesting. What's going to happen? Are they going to take over the Dauntless? Are they going to fly it into the neutral zone as declaring war on the Romulans? I don't think Prodigy's going to go into a Federation Romulan war plotline, but, like, I could very much see the Romulans and Federation getting roped into some major diplomatic crisis because the Romulans think the Dauntless has just gone into the neutral zone. I also thought this was the episode that had Jellicoe in it, because I saw some news thing, like some headline. Because I only just watched this episode, I wait till before the live streams. So maybe, like, that's why Jellicoe comes in, famous for dealing with major galactic crises. But yeah, Anakin, the Diviner did a Kirk chop to Janeway. There you go, more references. This one, actually, I thought it was kind of weirdly shot, because, Janeway walks in. I'll play this. Janeway... Let me get closer, and then I'll play it. Janeway walks in, and she gets surprised. We kind of see the room. The Diviner, last we saw, was kind of, this whole episode, he's been sitting on this couch and looking out this window. And, we see these two people who were looking where the Diviner used to be. They were kind of just staring with their backs to the door. They see Janeway, who comes in. Janeway's like, huh? They're like, huh? And then the Diviner comes from the corridor Janeway just entered from, through the door, and, like, chops her in the back. Let's see that. That was a Kirk chop. You are absolutely right. And a very unflattering frame. There we go. That, spatially, was very jarring for me. But, like, what were these two looking at if the Diviner was behind Janeway? Because, I'll say maybe he wasn't in the corridor. He was, like, hiding next to the door. But, like, why? And I don't know. Like, spatially, that scene just didn't work for me. And it was a way where, like, the Diviner had to be behind Janeway for this scene to work. And so they just made that happen. God, we're going to end on that, aren't we? Yeah, this negative. I've almost forgotten, actually. Hang on, let me get something up. Because there's something I was going to share at the start of this live stream. I went to my partner's parents. That whole family is very into Christmas, to watch some Christmas movies. And they watched Rudolph. Well, we watched Rudolph as one of the movies, the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Which, if you have not seen it, or have not seen it in a while, does not age well. And they asked the question that comes up every year, like, what was wrong with the doll? And then I think, like, what was wrong with the scooter? And I came across this article, in which I think the first paragraph is just going to sum it up amazingly. The 1964 Rankin Bass production of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is required holiday viewing for American children. It teaches a valuable lesson. Freaks must be forcibly removed from our society. If you can't tell, this is basically a comical article about, like, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer makes no real sense. And it's, basically, like, it's problematic, and it's just a hilarious read, this whole thing. The link is already in the description of this live stream, but it's like, it's a scooter, literally a scooter. In the song, it self-identifies as a scooter for Jimmy. Why is it a misfit? Is the scooter for Jimmy Hoffa's corpse? It's just, God, there's some amazing, I just had a great laugh reading that. I wanted to share it, and so there you go, you've just gotten it. But yeah, there we go. We'll end on a positive on that amazing article. And I'm dying. I need a drink. I'm actually feeling fine. I've got the minor cough, bit of the sniffles, but no, that was thankfully a pretty brief illness. I say thankfully because I honestly don't know how I would have reviewed this episode if it wasn't today. But yeah, we're getting close to the end of this section of Prodigy. There's only 4 more episodes till the end of the season. This is a proper end of the season. And then we take a break from Star Trek. It goes through the end of December. And then on my calendar, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-week break before Picard Season 3. Let me get that up, because some people don't know. February 16th for Picard Season 3. That'll be interesting. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll give people... Hang on. Bam. I'll give people a chance to make any last-minute comments. And I flashed up the thumbnail because I never know how long it takes for the stream to actually catch up. I've also had my panic of did I actually click the right go live button because I can't see it. The chat is covering it. And then I remembered I've been talking with Anakit for like the whole stream. So yes, I'm pretty confident I am live.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Alex.
I had to return Andy's gremlins to her.
It was a very smooth episode without Alex. No distractions. Very efficient.
Thank you.
Anaket, yeah, great. What did I say like 30 seconds ago?
Welcome back, Alex.
Oh, okay, sure, let's go with welcome back, Alex. I don't know if that's gone out yet, but yeah, I agree with whatever I said before.
You don't know. You have the thumbnail because you're not sure how long the lag is with your final thoughts.
No, that comment came in too fast. I don't know. And the dog is, of course, playing with squeaky toys. He started doing that a while ago, but I was wrapping up the stream, so... I think I'm going to close it out there. Thanks for joining. 1:30 a.m. You must have really wanted this. Nice to see. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh, I always forget. When I hit end stream, it actually does a little pop-up that's like, are you sure you want to end the stream? And so I always time my see you next time to click the button, so it's like clean. But then there's just a pop-up, and it's really awkward, actually. I'm just gonna go now.